Good morning and welcome back to another Once Upon a Tiny Farm video. And today I realize it's been about a month since I first did a video on what we learned selling at our first farmer's market. And now it's been a little over a month that we've been selling at a farmer's market. So I wanted to do a quick update video on what we've learned selling at the farmer's market for our first month. And I can really update it very quickly. Farming is hard. Good morning. How are we doing? You hungry? Want some food? Here it comes. Honestly, I've been so tired because I've been pushing myself to get this farm started. We started this farm from scratch this March. Well, technically last August when I put the tarp down on this 4,000 square foot plot for the garden, and you could see it's full of food growing all around me. So we've made a lot of progress, but it was hard. I've been working since mid-March at getting our systems up and running, our sprinkler systems, the walk-in cooler. All of those things took a lot of time and energy to get set up, and very important parts of growing food, but it took time away from the actual planning and growing of food. And luckily it's all done now. I won't have to worry about that in future years. It's all set up, so I'll be able to get going from the beginning. But this year it took some time and it's starting to wear on me. I haven't felt like getting out of bed the last few days. My body is just tired. I have trays of lettuce transplants that have needed to go into the ground. It took me 2 days to finish transplanting one row because my body is just exhausted. But that is the life that I chose to try and be a good steward of the land, to be a farmer. So I gotta toughen up and toughen my body up, I guess, in this off season that's coming up, which I can feel coming now. It's weird when you've been outside for almost every day of the year growing food, you really get a good sense of the seasons changing, and I feel it now just in the beginning, from the first week of August, and I can feel the cool air starting to come in every night and the seasons slowly starting to change, and it feels good. It's good. I'm excited to get to the point where I can tarp this field once again and hopefully control the weeds a little bit better, which I'll get into in a little bit. But alright, let's really talk about what I learned my first month selling at the farmer's market. So the number one thing I've learned, not just about for selling at the market, but just selling food for profit, and depending on your food that you have growing in your farm, is that you need to have a plan. See, I had visions of what I wanted my table at the market to look like. I want to have a root wall of carrots and beets and radishes every week that is stacked in crates and draws people in, and then they see our lettuce bags. And I also want to have herbs, which people have been asking for, and I think next year we're going to be growing a lot more herbs and making sure we have herbs every week. But my point is that I had this vision of what I wanted, but I didn't create a plan to make that vision happen, to make it become reality. And it took me about a month of selling at market and saying to myself every time we go and come back, I wish we had more things to fill our market table. I wish we did. And it all comes down to planning right from the beginning of the season. So next year we are going to have a plan to have all those things every week, and we're going to figure it out. But at least for this year, I'm going to have carrots for the last month and a half of selling at the market. So I'm happy about having at least carrots coming to the market. We've had radishes, but again, I haven't planned. You can't just plant them once and expect to have them every week. You have to keep planting every week or 10 days or so to succession plant your radishes to have them each day. So we got to work on that too. But again, it's all part of the learning curve of trying to sell at the market. You got to keep having things every week. You have to keep planning things even when it doesn't feel like you should be planning them. You got to do it, and you got to plan a little bit better. So that's a big lesson that I learned that I will take with me into next year. Another big lesson, which is interestingly a lesson, I guess, for life too. A lot of things that you learn in the garden directly correlate to life. But weeds, right? Weeds are a problem. And weeds, if you don't address those problems early enough and allow them to fester, they become an even worse problem. So one good thing, there is a good thing about weeds that I learned, is that they help if they grow tall enough and really grow and invade your garden beds. They will create kind of a canopy over the soil and create kind of a healthy soil structure down below. So that's like one good thing about the weeds. But what also happens down there is that your crops that you want to grow and be very healthy, they get not enough sunlight, and some fungally things start happening down at the base of those plants, and that's a problem. And you end up not getting as healthy plants as you want. And I had that in my first row of lettuce, and I lost basically the entire row because I didn't stay on top of the weeds like I should have. So now I know to get them early, and I'll show you what I did with my rows of carrots here. So this is a nice row of carrots here that might be ready in another week or a week and a half. When it was small, like this row next to it, see, I haven't gotten to weeding this row, but you just need to get these weeds out when they're small and allow these plants to grow to look like that row. That's what we want. But you got to get them early. It takes time. It's annoying, but you got to do it. If you want to have beautiful, healthy plants to bring to the market, you got to take the time in the morning when it's nice and cool to get them out. So, another big lesson to learn. Another thing that I've learned, and I've started thinking about this a bit recently, is that I need to be more productive with my rows. And what I mean is, I don't want to just be growing 25 feet of lettuce. I want to be able to grow the lettuce mixed with other things, companion planting. So I haven't done it yet, but I have a tray of green onions that I'm going to interplant with the remaining rows that I plant of my Salanova lettuce. I'm going to space my Salanova lettuce 8 inches apart instead of 6 inches apart and 4 in a row. I'm going to do 3 across 8 inches apart, a little bit further apart, and put green onions down in between those lettuces all the way down, just to give a little bit more diversity, biodiversity in the row, and it creates more things that I can put on our market table and plant them right in there with the lettuce. So I like the idea of doing that, and I experimented with that earlier in the season. I think I talked about that in an earlier video. I did radishes that ended up, they were daikon radishes, and the leaves on that got so big that they were shading the my Salanova lettuce like a weed would and cause some problems, and I lost about half of the row where I did that. So green onions aren't as big or invasive like that. They just they won't interfere with the growing of the lettuce. So I feel good about that, and I'm going to be experimenting with that for the rest of the year. And I also want to experiment. For my radishes, I do 7 rows, and I also want to start incorporating beets into my lineup of what I sell at the market. So I was thinking that I might start doing 2 rows of beets on the outside of the row, and then 5 rows of radishes on the inside of that row, so I can interplant beets and radishes together. So those are things that I'm going to try doing for the rest of the year too, to incorporate growing more things in the rows. Something I just learned the hard way last week is that you never know what's going to sell at the market. So for instance, we've been bringing 10 to 12 bunches of kale to the market, and recently I've been bringing almost all of them home. Nobody's been buying the kale. And this past week, I only brought about 6 bunches of kale. We sold out of them in the first 2 hours of the market, and we missed out on sales the rest of the market when people came by asking for kale. So just because in other weeks people weren't buying it doesn't mean that you need to stop bringing it to the market completely. You know, don't write something off completely because it doesn't cost anything. It's not costing you anything to bunch up a few more bunches of kale. It just takes a few more minutes each week when you're getting all your food ready to bring to the market. But really, they just go to the chickens if they don't sell. But you never know what's not going to sell. You never know what you're not going to need. Same goes for Swiss chard. We haven't been selling a lot of that. This week we sold out of that really quick. So you never know what people are going to want, but if you have it, you might as well just bring it to market anyway. And if you have chickens, it's not going to go to waste because the chickens will turn that food back into eggs and soil for next year for the market. So also, make sure you have enough money and change in your float to make change. You never know how many 5s or 1s you're going to need at the market. This week, I had so many people give me 20s, and I had like $100 in 5s, and I went down to like only 2 or 3 5s left at one point, and I thought I was going to run out of money. Luckily, it didn't come to that, but I guess I'm going to have to bring a little bit extra in my float for the future so we don't have that problem of running out of money so we could keep making change for people. I guess that's a good problem to have. So with all that being said, I guess it's pretty easy to say that I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm learning every single day. I'm learning on the fly. It is trial by fire, and I am determined to figure this out and make it work because I enjoy doing it. Even though I'm tired and exhausted, I like what I'm doing, and I like that I'm doing it from my home base. I don't have to work for someone else, and I like that I am doing something good for the soil and for the community by giving them good food without any chemicals or pesticides or anything like that, just good natural food. It's like I know how I want to grow these things regeneratively, without tilling, without heavy machinery, without disturbing the soil, and without using any chemicals and all that, pesticides, none of that. But I'm learning there's some nuances to that. It's more work to do it that way, it seems. But I'm going to figure it out. You know, I wasn't really ready to become a farmer before this year. I just made it happen. And I'm not sure that you're ever ready to do anything, really. I mean, when you're thinking about stuff like that, you're just kind of holding yourself back. You know, thinking, oh wait, I'm not going to do that. I'm not ready to do that yet, blah, blah, blah. If you want to do something, you just got to go and do it. You got to go for it, right? Life is short, so like there's no use like waiting around for some magical moment where everything's just going to click, you know? I found that you just got to go into it, whatever it is, and just learn, and you figure it out. And if it's not for you, if it's not working out for you, you figure that out pretty soon too, and then you can make a pivot, you know, and do something else. But I'm determined to make this work. You know, I got inspired to do this by a bunch of farmers that I found on YouTube, mainly one named Curtis Stone, and he did a lot of videos. I bought his book, and I actually realized recently that I haven't been using his book enough as a guide, because he even has succession planting guides for basically all of the crops that I'm growing, and I haven't looked at that closely enough. It would have made my life a lot easier. But the point is that he did a video, it was called, I believe it was called A Call to Regenerate the World, and that video, for some reason that video just really inspired me. And I mean, before that video, I already decided that I was going to do this, but that video just really made me say, okay, yeah, you definitely have to start a farm. You have to do this. And, you know, sometimes in my life, I do things, I don't know why I'm doing them, it's just that I feel like I'm being called to do something, and there's like no choice in the matter. I just have to do it. I feel like I'm being called to do it, and if I didn't do it, I'd be lying to myself. And that's what I've realized with this farming thing. I just have to do it. I have to learn from my mistakes. I am learning a lot, and I'll figure out what sells. I'll figure out what doesn't. And next year we'll get it all squared away, and we're going to be ready to go from right in the beginning of spring. We're going to be ready to go. And honestly, lately I've been very, don't want to say unhappy, but I've just been very down on myself, because I have this vision of what I want to do now, but we're already in the middle and now towards the end of the growing season, and I can't really implement the plans that I want to for next year this year. So I tried to implement more root crops that I'm going to have the last month or month and a half, like I said, with carrots and beets and radishes, but I can't be thinking so much about next year and give up on this year. And in recent weeks, I've had so little to bring to market besides our lettuce mix, which I have to admit, we had the lettuce nailed down. That's one thing that we have really going really well for us, and we've had customers come back every week buying it, so that I know that we're doing something really well. We have a good product that has good shelf life. In our fridge, we've had it keep for over 2 weeks, our lettuce mix and our spring mix. So we know that it lasts, and we've had people tell us that it does last for them too. So that's our main crop that we want to keep growing, but we want to have those other crops on the table too, to draw people to our stand. So I can't go back in time and make all of that happen, but I know that what I want to do for next year. And it's been a little bit disappointing going to the market with it feels like so few things. Like our table feels so naked and empty. But you know what? For my kid and my future kid, I'm just going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep learning. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep showing up with what we have, and I'm going to be proud of it. I'm proud of the way it was grown. And, you know, those compliments that we got recently at the market really, really gave me a big pickup of how I've been feeling. So thank you to anybody who complimented us at the market. I really needed those compliments, and I appreciate it. Those compliments just remind me that even though farming is a big struggle, especially for a new farmer, you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep doing it, because you're doing something right. So I'm confident that one day everything will click, and next year everything will just fall into place, and everything will have a plan, and our market stand will be beautiful and full of those fresh veggies, and even more sunflowers, and everything will be just the way we want it to be. And that's gonna wrap up this video. So I just wanted to give a quick little update on what we've learned our first month selling at the market and growing and starting a farm. I've noticed the last few weeks we've had a nice little uptick in subscribers. Might not look like a lot to some bigger channels, but we're inching close to 100 subscribers. And to everyone who has subscribed recently, I really appreciate that. And I've been doing this for a couple years, off and on, not very consistently. I'm trying to be more consistent with uploading, but I just want to say I appreciate those people who have subscribed recently, and I'm trying to do more content that will create value for other people based on things that I'm doing and things that I'm learning. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.